They need to be killed the right way,
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily fair that, yeah, certain animals have to die.
I mean, I think they're still oppressed, and they don't. Animals can't talk, so they can't they have no means of bettering that for themselves.
Do you think that you'd be willing to look into veganism more? What do you guys think about the animals who we force into slaughterhouses?
For the animals, I can't speak on that topic.
We love all of God's nature.
Yeah, we love animals.
Everyone.
We love animals.
They're all basically humans. Even that guy right there, that little dog.
So what about non-human animals, though?
What do you mean by that?
Currently they're being forced into slaughterhouses. Pigs, yeah, for unnecessary foods, since we can be healthy and happy on a plant-based diet.
They taste delicious. We can't be doing that. I think it's pretty wrong.
They need to be killed. They need to be killed the right way. Treated the right way for sure. They need to be treated the right way, not just slaughter them. Be a good way. Have a good way to kill them. And all that.
What would that look like? A good way to kill?
And we're gonna leave this interview to him, man. Thank you. Have a good day.
Good way to kill him. I don't know, just an old-fashioned way. I'm not a vegetarian, but take care.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping. So I'm wondering what you think about the animals who we force into slaughterhouses for unnecessary foods.
Yeah, I've learned about that in my classes. I take animal classes at my college, so I've definitely learned a lot about that before.
Okay, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think we can justify enslaving, exploiting, and killing other animals?
I see there could be a pros and cons situation. I don't think it's necessarily fair that, yeah, certain animals have to die, but I understand there's a lot of that's how a lot of people eat food.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of people are dishonest with themselves about.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that it's not necessarily fair, but there are pros and cons, what would be the pros, if any, to the animal who's...
Oh, not pros to the animal, yeah, I guess
There
the
are no
pros to the animal.
Yeah.
Unless it was for population reasons. I know deer hunting, there are pros to helping the population, but
Fair
I know
enough.
that's a little bit different than...
Yeah, when we talk about just the animals being bred into existence, to
that's
be farmed,
really different.
do you think that, for example, do you think it can ever be justified if we have other food choices, if we just stick to farmed animals and food choices?
I suppose it's not justified, no.
Yeah. So what would be stopping you, assuming that you're not vegan, from going in that direction?
I guess just the way I was raised, the foods that I eat, how accessible it is, the cheapness of chicken versus other options, just how I've always ate.
So let me tell you something. So there are some people who focus a lot on the how, how would I do this? How inconvenient would it be for me? But then there are also people who focus on the why.
Yeah.
So when we understand the moral imperative and we realize that we would never want to be in their position, and it's sometimes just as simple for us as maybe a couple more dollars for something, probably not even, or just moving our hand to a different milk choice, plant milk, for example, or selecting something different on a menu, the how becomes very easy, in other words. When you have a strong enough why, the how is just a matter of implementing something you really believe in. Think about if you went to a different country, assuming you don't eat dogs, for example,
Right.
If they were eating dogs, you'd probably find a way around it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think that after this conversation you might be more willing to look into taking animal rights seriously and adopting a vegan diet?
I could see it as different options, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your stopping. I know your family's waiting for you,
All
so I'm
right,
going to keep
yeah.
you. But let me just give you a leaflet, if I may. So it sounds like you have a pretty consistent view against oppression, whether the oppressor is more powerful intellectually or physically, whether it's part of their culture, whether they've been doing it for a long time themselves, whether the oppressed victim doesn't know that they're being oppressed, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really good to hear. It's we need people like that in this world. So in light of all of that, I'm wondering if you would consider the animals who are enslaved and forced into slaughterhouses an oppressed class. Would you consider them a group of beings who would fit under the definition of an oppressed class?
I've never thought about it.
I'd say yes. Yeah. I think they're still oppressed, and they don't. Animals can't talk, so they can't they have no means of bettering that for themselves.
Yeah, and they have no means of releasing themselves from that situation either. They're never going to be able to free themselves. Would you guys consider yourselves people who contribute to the system of animal farming in terms of like dietary choices, for example?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that something that you said you've kind of never thought about them as an oppressed class. Now that you are kind of thinking about it more, would you be interested in living in a way where you would remove yourself, at the very least, from funding those systems of oppression financially?
Yeah, I mean, always interested in doing better.
Yeah.
That's awesome. There's a quote that people who are vegan adhere to. It's kind of this idea that when you know better, you do better. And it just so happens to be the case that we all were pretty much raised eating animals and being taught that we need this for our protein, or Jesus said it was okay, or that's what they were born to do, or we need to eat them for B12 or something like that. But all of these things, there's ways around them that don't contribute to enslavement and commodification of other animals, and that's all that being vegan is. I think a lot of people actually adhere to those values. They naturally hold the belief that enslaving other beings and contributing to their oppression is wrong, but we get caught up in just day-to-day life, and we just don't stop to think about why there's like a turkey on the Thanksgiving table instead of a dog, for example. The dog is running around, or why there's any being.
Yeah, interesting.
So I really appreciate you guys stopping.
Yeah.
Would anything be stopping you from going vegan?
No. The taste.
I hate saying it, but like, I love bacon or like meat like that. But at the same time, there are like the Impossible Burger. There's like things that still taste good. Like, what were we passing by? It was like,
Oh yeah, over
It was,
just
like,
down on the
vegan.
river walk. There's a food
There's
market.
a burger place.
It's
Yeah,
like a
there's
meat
like
and
a
a vegan
vegan-
meat and cheese food stall, which we thought was interesting.
Which
yeah.
there is like a stigma around like vegan like stuff, like vegan meat and vegan cheese that a lot of times is good. Like vegan stuff is still good.
Yeah, and let's be honest, there's plant-based food that is gross, and just as much as there's animal stuff that's super revolting too.
We like health and wellness is very important to me. She knows this, so I do often focus on plant-based dinners, but not for any sort of like
Ethical reason.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, and of course it's possible to be healthy in spite of eating animals and their secretions and stuff. When you break it down, it's just chemistry. It's just macronutrients like protein, amino acids, things like that.
Hi.
So yeah, it's it sounds like you guys are really kind of open-minded about it, and
we have a family member who's vegan.
Yeah.
Love to be vegan.
Well, there you go. You can talk to this guy next. Yeah.
So let me provide you guys some information, if I may. I just want to address the taste thing. Taste is a sensory pleasure, and in the questioning about the oppressor and the oppressed, I sometimes ask, what if the oppressor really enjoyed what they're doing? And that's kind of what it comes down to when we acknowledge that we don't need to be eating animals or their secretions. Something can give us sensory pleasure and still be wrong. Just as something can be natural and still, ethically wrong. And also, you can open yourself up to a whole world of different tastes and cuisines. Like there's, Indian food like curries. Mexican food can be very easily veganized. A lot of times there's just like a bean or textured vegetable protein instead of the animal. Like if you think about what a burger is, you've got the bun, lettuce, tomato, relish, ketchup, pickles, all that stuff. There's just a little patty in it that you can make from black beans or something else. So I won't talk your guys' ear off, but a lot of the things that we season the flesh with is also plant-based. It happens to be that most of those spices, are not from animals' bodies.
Right.
So let me go ahead and give you guys a leaflet, and then I'll send you guys on your way. Thank you for stopping.
Yeah, sure.
And if you guys want to check out my channel, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, okay.
It's called Haz Vegan. It's just my name, H-A-Z,
Okay.
followed by the word vegan. It's just one word. And that's from a place called Vegan Outreach.
So cool. Thanks, Haz.
Yeah, thank you guys for
best of
stopping. I
luck with your
appreciate it.
experiment.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks.
All right, you guys have a great day.
Take care.
You too. My first question is, if you've heard of the word oppression.
No, I've actually never heard of it.
Oppression. Okay, so oppression. Have you heard of like oppressed? Like these people are being oppressed.
No.
Okay, great. So I'm happy to explain it. So oppression is basically a prolonged state of suffering that's imposed by someone else.
Oh, okay.
So, for
Like a
example,
heartbreak, kind of?
not exactly. So it could be thought of as, for example, I'm trying to think of as sterile of an example as I can. So if there was a group of individuals who didn't like, let's say, the fact that some people were very skinny,
Oh, okay.
And so they were discriminating against them for being skinny. They would make life very hard for them. So the skinny people would be in a state of oppression. They would be oppressed by the oppressors, which would be the people who are the anti-skinny people.
Okay, anti-skinny.
Yeah. So
like
that's
people who would say bad things
and force them into a situation more. But this can be very subtle. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. So do you think that's a good thing to do?
oppression. No.
Yeah.
No.
I agree. What do you think about if the oppressor said that the victim in this case of the oppression looks different to them? Would that make it okay?
No, I feel like everybody's supposed to look different. I feel like everybody's special in their own way.
That's beautiful. And if the oppressor said that the one being oppressed is so intellectually inferior to them, like they don't understand that they're being oppressed, and therefore use that, if they use that as a reason to therefore continue, do you think that it would be okay in that case if the victims don't know they're being oppressed?
No. Wait, I was a little confused by the question, if I'm going to be honest.
Like, oh, sure. So, for example, like, let's take the skinny people example. If the skinny people also happen to be intellectually disabled and don't understand, like, if all the oppression is happening behind closed doors and they don't know how much better things could be for them out on the other side.
Like they're keeping themselves stuck, like in one mindset type of thing.
Yeah, it's still wrong, right?
It's still wrong, yeah.
Yep, I agree. And what would you say if the oppressor says that they've been doing it for a long time? Like, skinny people have always been the second-class citizens, or, my culture does this and it's normal here. Would you think that it would be okay then?
Yeah.
It would be okay to oppress them if they've been doing it for a long time?
Well, are you talking about, like, culture type of, like...
Yeah, like if they said, well, in my culture, skinny people just don't get respect and that's how it is and that's how it'll always be. Do you think that there's something wrong with that?
No.
So, are you saying that it does make it okay if the culture has been doing it to continue to oppress?
Like, man, I don't know. I'm a little confused by the question.
Okay,
man.
it's okay.
My
So,
bad.
for example, no, it's all good. So, if the oppressor, so the person who's putting those, let's say the skinny people, into a kind of second-rate situation where they're not able to access things in the society that the non-skinny people can access, and they're not treated the same way. The same rights in them aren't recognized, and we say to the oppressor, hey, like, skinny people matter too, you should be nice to them. And they say, if that oppressor then says, well, I'm going to keep not being nice to them because it's what we've always done, do you think that oppressor is justified?
Correct? No.
Yeah, it's still wrong.
No, yeah, it's like, if, like, your father was racist means you're going to be racist, that's not how that works.
Yeah, that's another great example. So my question is, if you believe that, so we talked about, like, the skinny people example, it's kind of silly, but what do you think about the animals who we force into slaughterhouses and who we breed and enslave and then kill?
For, like, our own benefit, right?
For, not
like,
necessarily even for our own benefit, to eat, and for unnecessary purposes, considering that
a lot of food gets thrown away.
Not just that a lot of food gets thrown away, but considering that there are people who are vegan. Like myself, for example,
you're
I
vegan?
haven't
Okay.
eaten animals. I haven't eaten animals about 14 years,
Oh,
and I've been
okay.
vegan for 12 years.
Congratulations.
I appreciate that. But the way that I see it, it's kind of just like it's almost like a baseline of how to behave, because all I've done by going vegan is just removing myself in that I no longer pay for that stuff.
Okay.
Do you think that the animals, though, like, to go back to the question I was asking before letting you know I was vegan, like, do you think that they are, you can consider them an oppressed class, kind of like the skinny people?
The animals?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't understand in a way, because, I mean, like, us, we're just going to keep doing it, Like, and it's going to take a lot to be able to change that.
Yeah, and we say that our culture's been doing it for a long time, and we say that it gives us taste pleasure, for example. We say that they don't know that they're in this position, or as long as they get killed
Or whatever, because they're brainless, whatever they say,
exactly.
like chickens, for example, like they can't think, or whatever.
Exactly, and
Okay,
that's a type of, it's almost like a cultural genocide, in that we're erasing the social identities of an entire species.
Yeah, species. We're a species, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
why, oftentimes vegans will refer to other animals as non-human animals instead of just animals, because that kind of highlights our similarities and bridges the fact that, we are all animals, and that what we're doing to them is actually very othering.
it's messed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that you'd be willing to look into veganism more?
Yeah. I've thought about it, but like right now in my life, I don't think so. But maybe when I'm older, definitely. Yeah.
What's keeping you right now in
Honestly,
the non-vegan mindset?
Like honestly, like with the groceries, like at my home, like it's either like my mom has chicken, with rice or whatever, so I eat it, I think it's good for me.
So you're not doing a lot of the cooking, is that?
Yeah, I'm not doing a lot of the cooking. That's also what it is. Yeah. Because I'm still 17, so I'm just at home. I should probably learn how to cook for myself, definitely.
It's so easy. For example, before I came here today, I don't know if you're familiar with tempeh, but it's basically like soybeans that have been fermented and kind of pressed into a block.
Oh.
And all I did was I just cut it into cubes. It's just like a block. I cut it into cubes. I tossed it in a bowl with some onion powder, salt, pepper, just some basic stuff. And then if you have an air fryer, you can just toss those cubes into the air fryer for 20 minutes at like 350 degrees, shake it up halfway in between, and Bob's your uncle or whatever the saying is in England. Have you ever heard that?
No,
it's like there you go. You say Bob's your uncle.
Okay.
I'm trying to use more British slang
Okay.
because I think it's awesome.